the guy who was still handwriting books when the typewriter came out. Like, you don't want to be that guy. We need to rethink how we are planning our concepts, our sprints, our angles, our hooks, all of these things to do it faster and do more of it.
I'm Dave, and welcome to the AdOps Architect podcast, where we break down the business models, tech stacks, and systems that drive real growth in the advertising world. Today, I'm with Chris Marrano. He spent 15 years in the trenches with giants like Match.com and LendingTree before founding Blue Water Marketing back in 2017. Now he helps DTC brands scale by replacing guesswork with systems. He also just launched AdIQ.ai to help brands analyze creative performance in real time, which in this market is the difference between winning and losing. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Great intro there.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
did my research on you.
Excellent.
Chris, you talk a lot about how creative velocity is the new way to run creative strategy. Was there a specific moment or client crisis that made you realize, like, we can't just do media buying anymore, we have to build systems?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. I think this year for us was really one that was very similar to when iOS happened. The whole year was going very well across our whole portfolio, 20 plus brands. In summer, everything was going really, really well. And September was like we hit a brick wall. Performance decreased, efficiency plummeted. It was really like this head scratching moment of what has happened. I've been running ads since 2013. What happened in the way I have always ran ads, millions of dollars in spend, to great months. August 2025, it literally was one of our best months ever. 4 of our brands had their best months ever. Efficiency was phenomenal. And then it came all crashing down. And so I really had to take a look at, like, what just changed? Why was the rug pulled out from beneath us? And luckily had some foresight into what was going on with the Andromeda update. But long story short, Meta completely changed their entire algorithm. And so what we found very quickly was, like, the old way of running very specific controlled tests in an ad account with 3 to 5 ads in an ad set. And it wasn't until a few weeks later, when really we dove into what was going on and what was now needed, did we understand that creative volume and or velocity was becoming extremely important. I think prior to, everyone was like, run broad. Like, that was the motto, basically. But until the Andromeda update fully rolled out, it really seemed like there wasn't that, like, correlation. Oh, we are going to run broad to 100 million people. But of those 100 million people, we need a whole bunch of creative variety to show to these different people on platform. And that's September was the month for us where we're like, okay, we need to rethink how we are planning our concepts, our sprints, our angles, our hooks, all of these things to do it faster and do more of it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So would you say, like, the biggest pivot then was trying to build a system that allows you to keep the same quality of new creatives, but then do them at scale?
Yeah, so I think the difference between a brand and an agency is, like, we work with 24 brands, right? So how can my team of 20 people put together the volume and velocity still with strategy needed to execute at this kind of newfound way of running Facebook ads? And throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall never works. And so really we've spent months refining what this system looks like. And luckily we weren't completely screwed, for lack of a better word. Like, we've been building the system. We just realized we needed to increase the output. The system was already there. We just had to crank up the volume, per se.
And can you share what that system is?
Yeah, I mean, it's luckily we have tools these days, like even ClickUp, right? We've completely integrated N8N and our ClickUp together so that when various tasks take place, it moves to a different space, etc. Not to get too technical, but in theory, the ladder of ascension is creative strategist still owns the creative strategy, right? So for our team, they are pulling the data to understand what has previously worked, and then thankfully, we have AI these days to plug in, hey, here's the product, here's what worked. Essentially, what are the 5 stages of awareness for this product based on the metrics that we have of existing ads to understand what that next iteration or concept will be, and from there it goes into many tasks assigned to our graphic designers and video editors with the briefs, with the copy, with the client approvals to then execute at such a higher volume.
Okay.
So N8N and ClickUp, long story short, that is essentially the system paired with our media buyers and creative strategists to make sure that we're correlating the results back to future concepts.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm curious, your new SaaS platform, AdIQ, how does that kind of come into play in this whole model?
It was kind of an accident, truthfully, we started building automations and AI very aggressively December of basically a year ago. And then in January, saw a friend of mine, Ashton Shanks, speaking at an event. He was discussing all of the automations he's been building. It was kind of this aha moment of okay, the world is changing extremely quickly. From a human service-based business, do we have a leg to stand on in 2 years if we do not start integrating a higher leverage technology base than we had last year, right? Things have changed so much that last year, 2 years ago, we were all just using ChatGPT. It was pretty not so great. But you're this is the new technology. We're going to use this. We're going to write Facebook ads copy with it. There wasn't so many M dashes 2 years ago as there is now, but it was a matter of hey, let's just use this tool. I think the transition for us in really processing out every single step of my business allowed us to take that step back and say, what of this can we integrate AI into it natively to say this just works on its own, and the human in the loop is at the end of the automation. Then we can cross-reference, we can analyze data, we can make sure that the numbers are accurate. And so we really started building in N8N. We built databases. We have everything now being ingested into our database so that we can continue to iterate and learn and get better. And in the process of building this, we're well, if we're connected to the Meta API and the Google Ads API and the Shopify API, we already have all this data. What else can we do with it? And I think, especially as these models have evolved, data analysis is the first key to it, in which I would need a whole team of data analysts to go through on a granular level what ad had the lowest CPM, the highest click-through rates, the lowest cost per purchase, and the highest ROAS. Those are 4 different charts or reports we're going to have to pull from Meta. The database paired with Gemini 3 Pro or Claude can do that almost instantly. And as this started to evolve, I said, man, this is working really well for my agency. Who else would this work for? And if we built it for us, I know it's going to work for other agencies. And even on a more basic level, the smaller brands who don't have 20 people working for them and they're trying to figure out how to run Facebook ads, how to get 50 ads created without using a Fiverr expert. This solves a problem for the masses of people in e-com, in Facebook ads. And so long story short, we developed AdIQ.
Wow, that's awesome. I feel the best types of products come out naturally without there being any forced kind of monetary incentive. It's hey, this helped me help my clients. Just want to put out there to the world. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what it came down to is the various VCs I've spoken with and the people who have been helping advise me along the road is why did this start? And I was well, we were trying to solve a massive problem at my agency in regards specifically to the fact that every 3 to 4 new accounts I bring on, I have to bring on a whole new pod, which means overhead increases exponentially. My salary load increases exponentially. My margins decrease until I can bring on another 3 to 4 clients. And so it was this cycle of how can we utilize these tools to be better and to be more efficient.
Okay. That makes sense. And then the product itself, so AdIQ, it sounds like the core component of it is data analysis. And I would say with data analysis, the hardest part is the creative, like qualitative analysis. So how exactly were you able to solve that?
So initially, I don't want to get too nerdy, but we have formatted the database to be able to analyze massive amounts of data, but chunked out into timeframes. And so we're able to pull specific weeks or days if we would like, but from a macro perspective, the daily data then correlates to weekly data. And then the weekly data correlates to monthly data, monthly to quarterly, so forth and so on. And so that was a big undertaking for us because we all know like these have 250,000 token limits. Hallucination happens. Like, how can we still do this analysis and make sure that it is streamlined enough so that we're getting accurate information? And so that's how we did it. From there, we're analyzing everything from transcriptions, the frames in a video, what is in an image, the color of the product background. Are there props? Are there not props? Is it a woman? Is it a man? Is it, all of these very micro aspects of what makes a quote unquote ad is all being analyzed and linked back to performance data.
Wow. Okay. So I'm picturing like categorizations for each ad, from the simple ones of like, is this a video or static ad to what kind of awareness stage is this ad in? Is that correct?
Yep, exactly.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of value in that, especially with brands that are scaling and they're, continuously putting out like hundreds of creative, like that's stuff that kind of gets lost in the mix. So I see how that could be useful.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken and consulted with huge brands, and the problem everybody always has is why did this work and what do we do next, right? And in a world of creative volume, you just end up creating a bunch of stuff. And then you realize why, on average, Meta's creatives, 80% of them fail, 20% are those quote unquote winners, because everyone's just throwing a bunch of kind of organized stuff against the wall. And I think this is that bridge between like the categorization and the patterns in the themes within a specific ad account to help direct that, direct the decision making, more or less.
So when it comes to the actual creative iteration strategy, how do you decide which creatives you want to iterate on? Like, let's say as an example, awareness stages, if you have 3 that are doing really like well, would you focus on other 2 or double down other 3?
So most of the brands that we work with, we're just going to keep doubling down on what works. I think for the size of brands like mid 7 to kind of mid 8-figure range, like they haven't hit their addressable market yet. We're trying to drive efficiencies. That is key in that window of like 5 million to 20 million. Sounds like a lot, but like 20 million, you have operating expenses, you have employees, you have OpEx costs. That like efficiency is still super important. So we're still going to test with a small percentage of the budget, no matter what. For us, rule of thumb is 20% goes to testing. The rest of it goes to evergreen and scaling. When you get into the larger brands, I think that's where, how can we find more people that do not yet know about our product? And that's where the stages of awareness come in. A brand that I always look at more for inspiration is Loop Earplugs. It's a simple concept. It's earplugs. They are a huge brand running thousands of ads now across, I think, 12 to 20 different avatars at a time. So their whole creative strategy is like, our earplugs solve problems for concert goers who are next to speakers all night long, for people who are now going back to the office and they want to drown out the office sound in the background, parents with screaming kids. Like, you look through their ad library and you're like, man, is this really what it takes to sell earplugs at scale across the world. And so to answer your question, for smaller brands driving efficiency, it's key to like keep doubling down on what you're doing. Test new angles, new messaging. But what I alluded to earlier with the whole Andromeda update is we used to run 3 to 5 ads in an ad set. Did this messaging work? Yes, perfect. Promote it to scaling, test new iterations of it, swap out headlines, change the color, like small, minute changes. Now, with the way I believe we need to run ads, is that one test has 15 ads in it, where historically that was more or less unheard of. So now we're running 15 ads for one test against one avatar and one angle with all the stages of awareness. From my understanding and all of the research and the deep research and the YouTube transcripts, everything that I've pulled together, Meta is telling us now that it will funnel people correctly. Serve the ad to the right person at the right time of the buying stage. So we had to essentially redo the system that we had built to say, okay, now every single concept for every one of our clients is getting all 5 stages of awareness. We're testing the messaging behind it, the problem, the USP, like whatever the theme may be. And we're putting all of those into one ad set. We're almost tracking the concept more than the ad itself. And then if this concept and this ad set and per se is at or above our account average, that's an indicator that these ads, this concept is winning. And then we can iterate within that, kind of those parameters per se.
Okay. So with AdIQ, how does that process become easier?
So with AdIQ, separate from the agency or one and the same, it's going to tell you what is working within this. Because as a human, we're going to look at the ad, we're going to look at the data, and we're going to say, this is a winner. It's above KPI, click-through rate's really good, CPM is low, frequency isn't exhausted. Oh, this is a winner. What about this ad worked? In theory, unless you're a really good data analyst, it's going to be speculation. Oh, I think it's because of this pink background, the contrasting colors. The headline was so captivating. But I think the problem that we all fall into is like, okay, now we're going to swap out this picture. Instead of having a lifestyle photo, we're just going to do the same headline with a product photo. Then, more times than not, that ad that you've iterated on doesn't work. And so what AdIQ allows us to do is the headline messaging, the product photo messaging, based on the data that's occurring and 2 years of past data, it can give a higher likelihood of correlation based on all of the other ads it's ran. So what were some of the factors with this ad that also the other 20 ads had in this to be able to hypothesize those future results? We all know as like media buyers, I'm not looking at last year's ads. We're looking at like a 7-day window, 14-day window, maybe 30-day. And so like July sprints and concepts, we're not looking back at that information all the time to say, oh man, July, all these ads worked. Like, let's do those again in January. Like everything's changed. Everything's different. Market conditions have changed. But in the analysis, we're able to pull out just so much information to be like, oh, well, this tone of voice, these 3 words were in this same ad over here. They both had X% higher ROAS than the other ads. We can start to formulate and hypothesize based on the algorithm what to do next.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel like where I see this really being useful is for creative teams that don't want to be in the ad accounts, and also the ad buyers that don't want to like over explain or try to make creative analysis when they're more analytical. So this kind of bridges the gap, I feel like.
That's exactly, that's how we're trying to position, right? It's the creative intelligence layer, right? A lot of these tools will tell you like, oh, the problem solution worked really well, or the us versus them worked really well, but there's way more to it. And after speaking with all of the brands I've spoke with and the creative teams and the media buying teams, like no one still even knows how to track what worked and what didn't work. The spreadsheets, like there's really like the human aspect of it is challenging because somebody needs to be inputting all the data. And then somebody also needs to be reviewing hundreds and hundreds of rows of an Excel sheet. And then what do you pull out of that? And that's the same question that 8-figure brands have asked me, like, how do we set up this creative review process so we know what to do? And that's the bridge that I'm trying to get, the gap that I'm trying to bridge with this tool.
So it sounds like users of the tool now, they skip all the time and uncertainty of knowing what the next step is. The software literally tells them what they should iterate on and what concepts to test. So now they could spend more time making those concepts as good as possible to continue increasing performance, right?
Correct. And like the algorithm is built so when users sign up, it ingests 2 years of data. So it's a huge API pull, and it starts immediately analyzing every single image, video, call to action, description, everything. And then based on naming conventions, once those ads you start to put into your ad account based on what it's telling you to do, it's going to continue to learn from that as well. So it's essentially like a small language model for the brands that will keep getting better over time.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of times now. So I'm curious about the whole process of starting to use the app. So if someone's interested in AdIQ, it sounds like they obviously sign up. And how does that onboarding process look like? How soon can they start analyzing and creative? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So sign up, onboarding. Onboarding is a lot of deep research occurring on the back end. So they're going to input their website, upload brand guidelines. If they don't have brand guidelines, it will create it for you. So first step is what are the reviews saying? What are people on Reddit saying? What are all the different forums? How is your brand being perceived? What is your tone of voice? Your colors? How has this brand been represented over the history of this 2-year period? From there, the analysis takes about 24 hours. So for us, we're okay, user experience, we want people to be wowed right off the bat. How can we provide as much value as possible? And so while the back end workers are all working on the analysis, on the front end, because it now has your brand guidelines, how people perceive you, what they like, what they don't like, we're going right into concept creation. So right off the bat, this is going to create new avatars for you. From those avatars, it's going to create new campaign concepts. So new sprints to test within your ad account. From there, you're going to select whatever product you want advertised. It's going to scrape that product page, pull your product photo, and you can create 20 ads within 5 minutes. So we have the static ad generator part of this, that headline or hook, body, subheadline, call to action. The user is able to select what they want, and we will create those ads for you. We're then using the edit endpoint. So if you're I don't really like that background, all you have to type in is change this background to whatever you want. It's generated. And so you have, as close to perfect AI generated ads within the first 5 minutes of you onboarding with AdIQ.
Wow.
And we built it so there's us versus them, problem solution, features, benefits, urgency, whatever theme you want your ads to look like, it will create those ads for you. From there, it then writes all the ad copy, and you're literally able to copy and drop into your ads manager.
Yeah, that adds another layer of value, I feel for clients. So originally it sounded it still sounds like the core layer of it is the creative intelligence layer, but that kind of fuels all these other parts of the app that, basically help, from beginning to end, building out creative systems for ad accounts. So,
at scale.
Yeah.
Because I think there's two sides of the coin. There's the agency side where nothing is cheap. Our graphic designers, every single asset we have to charge the client, right? Otherwise, I'm going to go out of business. But also thinking of those smaller brands, if everybody is saying the only way you can succeed on Meta now is creative volume and velocity, and they have, a small 20 or 30K a month budget. How can they afford $200 per static image? And if you need 15 of them, 20 of them at a clip, they can't afford that. So I think what AI has enabled us to do is create these systems, move faster in a more cost-efficient manner. This gives smaller brands the ability to test messaging with hooks and then go get the UGC creators. Once you validate, oh, this messaging worked, now you go outsource. It allows you, the user, whoever it be, agency or brand, to create 100 ads with the click of a button at a price point that isn't going to put them out of business.
Yeah. I feel like also what's cool about this is because you're really processing all the data, like 24 hours is a long time. There's probably so much things going on in the back end to help bring context to those ads you're making. Like, I think that's such a powerful integration, because there's a lot of ad creation tools out there. Everyone has like their own AI creating tool, but that doesn't have any context. The only context they usually take is like an example of an ad you upload. That's it. But here, that's completely different.
Yeah, that was the gap. Like, I've signed up, being an agency owner and being very interested in tech. I have signed up for every single SaaS that is available for media buying and creative strategy. And I'm not going to name them because it's not how I am, but none of them get granular enough for either someone to hop in quickly and know what to do, or they are too broad, in which if you're not an expert in marketing, you don't really know what to do with this data. You're like, okay, like I mentioned earlier, problem solution works. Okay, like what part of it? Was it like the problem, the solution? Was it the hook? Was it the description was really captivating because the copy was written really well? Like, the general brand owner who's focused on fulfillment and operations and outsourcing to China and all these other things on their plate, like, they don't know what to do when they see this theme worked really well. It's like, I have to go create more ads, I guess. Like, I got to go back to Upwork. Like, there's no, so it's like trying to solve this problem, and the data was key to it all.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, as a day-to-day, now I want to focus more on like the marketing team, right? So how does this change their day-to-day if they have this tool onboarded?
So I think a huge factor in this, the reason I created it, was the efficiency and effectiveness side of things. I have media buyers and I have creative strategists, right? And they both work in a pod, but they're both looking at their own thing. My creative strategist rarely will go into Meta Ads Manager, sort by click-through rate, watch the video. Like, my media buyers reporting to the creative strategist on what's working, what's not working. This bridges that gap from both the efficiency standpoint of understanding what's working, but also the ideation process. Like, back in the day, I don't know if you've ever watched Mad Men. Like, guys used to just sit around the coffee table or the conference table, drink whiskey, smoke cigars, and come up with an idea. Now with data, it's a little bit more sound of an idea, but the process is still the same. It's still a human being like, oh man, okay, so this angle worked really well. All right, now I think we should probably take this angle and use it against this new avatar, right? It's still very hypothetical testing scenario. What this has allowed us to do, both with our clients and then the result correlation, is to have more of a backbone on why we believe this should work. Because over the last 6 months, every time we use X, Y, and Z, your results have been 17% higher. So we're going to take these same X, Y, and Z and apply it to a new avatar. And so the hypothesis becomes a little bit more validated than just being like, man, we're selling sunglasses. If we start selling sunglasses to motorcycle riders instead of surfers, we think this is going to work.
Yeah.
So I think it's just allowed us to validate ideas way more rapidly and then test way faster.
Yeah. I don't know how many meetings I've been in where it's like, all right, new week. What should we try next? And it's like some weeks, there's a lot of inspiration and everyone has ideas. And other weeks we're just like, I don't know, let's change the background of that one ad that's been running, that's been working. So yeah, I see the like how meetings could change dynamically from that. Because now you could like brief what AdIQ gives you, and that starts the conversation with some, data backed context. So.
Yeah, and we're not just giving one idea.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always three. It's always going to be like, because one of the things that I think earlier in the year, everyone was talking about AI agents. AI agents are going to be able to do your branding and do this, and they're all going to work together, and it's going to be this perfect synergy where like you're not going to need employees anymore. Then came the bridge of like everyone's calling like N8N workflows agents, which they're not, like they're linear workflows to solve automation issues that use AI. I think the thing to remember is like there needs to still be a human in the loop. It is so like we have amazing automations, but if people aren't checking them or they're not approving the thing that it creates, it's not that good yet. So by us integrating multiple choices, you're still able to have the human think, say, oh, okay, this makes sense, but I actually like this one better. So we're going to go with this one. And I think that from a user experience as well, like if I'm just being told what to do all the time, not that great. But if I get to have my creative thinking applied through this tool, now I still get the choice. There's still the human in the loop to be like, this is the one.
So you're telling me business owners should not go and fire their whole marketing teams and just use AI? Not yet. That's scary.
It's the future will be very interesting. Like I don't know what it looks like. I don't necessarily know if it's a positive or negative outlook. But for now, we are protected in that we still need humans to do things.
I'm thinking like Avatar, like the people, I don't remember the characters, but they're like inside these like robots and now like, they're armored and they're able to, I guess, be more powerful. That's kind of what it's like now.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the scary part is how fast it's all moving. So we had built the static ad generator during like GPT when they first dropped their image model. And it was not good. Like we could never present any of that to our client. But like seeing how quickly things are evolving, I was like, well, we still need to build because this is only going to get better. And so then Nano Banana 2.5 Flash came out. We switched APIs. We went to that and it was like pretty good. But what we couldn't get accurate was the text. And then 2, 3, 4 weeks ago when Gemini 3 Pro came out with V2 of the image model, that night at 11 p.m., I was swapping API calls and it was like, what just happened? And, since then, like now we actually have 4 different API calls to create the images because we want to have opportunity for text selection. Gemini only takes certain file styles. So we have like a lot of back-end conversions happening. And then we're condensing down the prompt after the user selects what they want. But the key is it's still just going to get better. Like, what does Nano Banana 3 look like? And so for me, I'm like, okay, we're moving this rapidly. Video models are coming out fast. Like, we just need to make sure our infrastructure is set up so that we just have to switch an API call. And I think that's super critical for anyone who's building or getting into this world and e-com and ads is like know enough about what that foundation looks like so that even if you're not using AdIQ or any of these tools, like you have an idea of the possibilities because I think like the world, it's changing so fast. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, what's it called? Google Stitch.
What's that?
It is a new, what's the design tool that everyone uses?
Video editing or just design?
No, graphics.
I use Figma.
Figma.
Photoshop. Oh,
Yeah,
Figma.
Figma.
Okay, nice.
This is an AI version of Figma that Google just dropped. And you are able to put your business idea, description, all this, and it will create wireframes and whole web pages with hypothesized heat maps of where and why people will click based on all the data Google has on how we all use websites. So like things are moving so fast right now where I put in a prompt. I'm like, I need a better UX sign up page. It created it for me. And now it's in Tailwind and I can just send it to my developer and he can build it.
Wow.
Things are changing so fast. So I want to just make sure like I am on the forefront of all these to make sure that we're just the best at what we do.
What would you tell to people that are like anti-AI and those that like, I've met a couple people that just like do not like where things are heading and they think, it's a bit overrated, I guess.
It's a good question. I would say to those people, like, we don't have a choice. Like, I think the cat's been let out of the bag. There's kind of no going back at this point. I'm happy to be in the e-com world because the thing, especially in America, is like people like stuff, right? So there's always going to be stuff purchased by the consumer. So I think, and then we look at the metrics of this Black Friday compared to last, I think that it was up, online sales was up like 15 or 16% of billions and billions of dollars. So you're like, okay, online purchasing is still going to happen. People still want a tangible pair of sunglasses, whatever that may be. For the people who don't think it's that good, my assumption is more than likely just using ChatGPT and like typing something in. And like, for me, it's really a matter of like, what tools are available that will make us better and more efficient at all times? And like, what can we automate? What are the SaaS tools I'm paying for that we can just build now? One of my developers reporting, we pay a SaaS for all reporting. And last night she was DMing me on Slack and sent me over a Vercel link, and she because we already have the database, built out a full-blown customer reporting dashboard for us. And it's like, so that went from idea to implementation in 72 hours.
Wow.
So like the rapid pace in which we are, the world some of us are living in, you're like, man, the only thing limiting right now is like my own imagination, it feels like.
That's a beautiful world to live in, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we've built training module dashboards for our team. We've built hiring modules to make sure we're hiring the right team members. We have built AdIQ, obviously. We have built so much in a short period of time over the last year. It would have taken me $500,000 in 3 years, 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, we're doing so fast now.
Wow.
So I would say to the people who don't like it, there's no closing the door now. If you're in the online world, like you have to get in. Well, the analogy I always use is like the people who do not start integrating this in one way or another, like to solve their own problems, it will be like the guy who was still handwriting books when the typewriter came out. I really believe that. Like, you don't want to be that guy.
Back then, they probably like, that stuff is going to blow over. We'll go back to writing.
Yeah. Like, you don't want to be the guy writing a 600-page book, handwriting that when you got your friend down the street writing it with a typewriter.
Yeah. I think that's an awesome analogy. I keep saying awesome. I don't know. It's an awesome word.
I mean, I think would you agree? Like you're in the world of automations. I see your videos, like, would you agree with that thought?
I would say so. I think the biggest issue most business owners have is they don't know where to apply it and how. So that's why I think episodes like this and talking to people like me and you is very, very helpful, because to your point, if you're just using ChatGPT, you're not getting the full scope of what AI is capable of.
Well, not just that, but like switch to Gemini 3 or Claude, because GPT is trash.
I canceled my GPT subscription and they literally gave me a free month. They're like, please stay, give us some time.
What a demise. I mean, I'm sure they'll rebound, but you look at their business model right now and the amount of cash burn occurring, I think the projection is like they couldn't ever be profitable until like 2029, and they're still burning, I think, $175 billion to get there.
They just want that market share, right?
Right, but the market share is now decreasing because it's not as good as the other models. So you're like, I'm going to hedge my bets on Anthropic and Google.
Yeah, same here. Today, we had a really great episode today. Talked a lot about operations within creative, a lot of good golden nuggets for brands running ads for e-commerce. And then we also dived into AdIQ and kind of had a good overview of how that app helps business owners scale their creative. And yeah, we like kind of nerded a lot about AI, but I think overall this is a really great episode, and I can't wait for viewers to get a chance to see it. I'm curious if people want to connect or try this platform for themselves, what will be the best way to do that?
Yeah, for sure. Before we go there, I try to find a balance between the e-com and the AI because I'm actively heavily involved in both right now. On the AI side, figure out what the process is first before you hop into the tool. So take that step back. What is every step I need to do to get this thing done if a human was to do it? And then work backwards to automate it. I think it's a challenge that a lot of people have is they're like, oh, I want to automate my email inbox or, something even more complicated. It's like, okay, well, what would the process be for a human to do this? And then work on the automation or the AI. Where you can find me, I am most active with like casual active on Instagram at the Chris Marrano. But if you're looking for like the real sauce, LinkedIn and my YouTube channel. Both of those places, just Chris Marrano, ChrisMarrano. But if you're looking for like the behind the scenes kind of fun, less polished stuff, definitely Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll leave those links in the description. And then also believe it's AdIQ.ai for the
AdIQ.ai. We're in beta right now, but within the next, very shortly, I don't want to put a deadline, but very shortly, we will be opening up to the public.
Awesome. Chris, really nice to have you on. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, Dave, thanks. Great to see you.